Owen Fletcher had exactly 3 skills in life: fixing broken things, making terrible coffee, and walking into the wrong room at the worst possible moment. Today, all 3 were about to collide in the most spectacular way possible: the maintenance. Alert had been simple enough. Atmospheric recycler malfunction. Section 7, Block C12. Owen grabbed his toolkit, whistled an off-key tune, and headed down the corridors of the Nemesis, humanity's largest prison transport ship. What he didn't realize was that his worn-out work tablet had a cracked screen, and what looked like C12 was actually X12, the maximum security. Xenobiological containment wing. The door hissed open with unusual resistance, which Owen attributed to the hydraulic system needing maintenance. The air inside was thick, humid, and carried a strange sweet scent that made his skin tingle. Purple bioluminescent panels cast everything in an otherworldly glow, and the temperature was at least 10 degrees warmer than standard ship atmosphere. Weird. Set up for an air recycler, Owen muttered, pulling out his diagnostic scanner. The readings were all wrong. No mechanical systems, no ventilation ducts, just organic-looking walls that seemed to pulse with their own rhythm. That's when he heard the voice. Finally came a low, melodious tone. It seemed to vibrate through his bones. The prophecy speaks truth. You have arrived. Owen spun around, nearly dropping his scanner. Standing before him was the most magnificent creature he'd ever seen. She was tall, easily 7 feet, with skin that seemed to shimmer between deep purple and silver. Her body was perfectly proportioned, curved in all the right places, with muscles that spoke of incredible strength without sacrificing an ounce of femininity. Her hair flowed like liquid starlight, and her eyes, bright amber with flecks of gold, seemed to look directly into his soul. Owen managed, his voice cracking like a teenager's. I think I'm in the wrong place. I'm just here to fix the air recycler. The alien woman stepped closer, her movements fluid and predatory. She wore what appeared to be ceremonial clothing, strips of metallic fabric that covered the essentials while leaving plenty of her stunning form visible. Golden bands encircled her arms and thighs, and intricate tattoos covered her skin, patterns that seemed to shift and move in the purple light. You are exactly where you need to be, she said, her voice carrying an accent that was both exotic and incredibly sexy. I am Nixara, daughter of the Veltari Empire, and you, Small. Human are my destined mate. Owen's brain short-circuited. I'm sorry, what now? Nixara circled him slowly, her eyes taking in every detail of his appearance. Owen was suddenly very aware of his rumpled maintenance uniform, his uncombed hair, and the fact that he'd spilled protein paste on his shirt that morning. He was about as far from impressive as a human could get. The ancient texts speak of a being from the stars, Nixara continued, her voice growing husky. Small in stature, but mighty in spirit. One who would enter my prison not as conqueror, but as innocent. One whose essence would call to mine across the void. She stopped directly in front of him, close enough that he could feel the heat radiating from her body. You carry the scent of metal and determination. Your aura speaks of hidden strength. My aura probably smells like hydraulic fluid in desperation, Owen replied, but something in her intense gaze made him stand a little straighter. Nixara reached out with one elegant hand and touched his cheek. Her skin was incredibly soft, and Owen felt a jolt of electricity at the contact. You do not see yourself clearly, little Starwalker, but I see what you truly are. A glorified janitor with commitment issues? A warrior who does not know his own power. Owen was pretty sure that was the nicest thing anyone had ever said about him. He found himself leaning into her touch, his body responding to her presence in ways that made his uniform feel uncomfortably tight. Look, this is obviously some kind of misunderstanding. I'm just Owen Fletcher, maintenance tech 3rd class. I fix things that break. I don't do prophecies or destiny or whatever this is. Nixara's eyes blazed with intensity. Then prove me wrong, she challenged. The trials of worthiness await. If you truly are not my mate, the tests will reject you. But if the ancient wisdom speaks true, she moved even closer, her breath hot, against his ear. Then you will claim me as I have claimed you. Owen's knees nearly buckled. Trials? 3 challenges to prove your worth. Strength, cunning, and passion. Her hand moved to rest on his chest, directly over his racing heart. Do you accept? Every rational part of Owen's brain was screaming at him to run. This was insane. He was a maintenance worker, not some intergalactic Romeo. But there was something about Nixara that made him want to be more than he was. The way she looked at him, the way she spoke about him, made him feel important for the first time in his life. What happens if I fail? He asked. Then you return to your small life, and I remain alone in this cage until death claims me? The sadness in her voice was like a physical blow. But if you succeed, her lips curved in a smile that promised incredible things. Then you will know pleasures beyond your imagination, and our union will be celebrated across the stars. Owen's mouth went dry. And if I don't try at all, then you will always wonder what might have been. She had him there. Owen had spent his entire life wondering what might have been. What if he'd been braver, stronger, more confident? What if he'd taken chances instead of always playing it safe? Here was a chance to be the hero of his own story, even if it was completely insane. Okay, he said, his voice steadier than he felt. I'll try your trials. Nixara's smile could have powered the entire ship. Then let us begin. She led him to the center of the chamber, where strange symbols were carved into the floor. The air seemed to thicken as she began to chant in a language that sounded like music and starlight. The symbols began to glow, and Owen felt a strange tingling in his limbs. The first trial, Nixara announced, is the test of strength. Not of muscle, but of will. You must move the sacred stone. She gestured to a crystalline boulder that had definitely not been there moments before. It was easily 3 times Owen's size, and looked like it weighed more than a small shuttle. You want me to move that? Owen asked, his confidence already wavering. If you are truly my mate, you will find a way. Owen approached the stone, his mind racing. Direct force was obviously not going to work. He wasn't strong enough to budge something that massive. But he was good at fixing things, at finding solutions to impossible problems. He studied the stone carefully, running his hands over its surface. There, a small depression near the base, perfectly sized for his hand. When he pressed it, the stone began to hum. Symbols appeared along its surface, and Owen realized it wasn't just a stone. It was some kind of mechanism. It's not about moving it, he said, understanding dawning. It's about activating it. He pressed the symbols in sequence, following a pattern that somehow felt familiar. The stone rose into the air, rotating slowly, bathed in golden light. Nixara's gasp of amazement made Owen's chest swell with pride. You see beyond the surface to the truth beneath. The first trial is complete. As the stone settled back into place, Owen felt a surge of confidence. Maybe he really could do this. Maybe there was more to him than he'd ever imagined. What's the second trial? He asked. Nixara's eyes sparkled with mischief and desire. The test of cunning. You must find the key to my heart. She pressed her hand to her chest, and Owen could swear he felt an answering pulse in his own. Is that literal or metaphorical? Both, she said, moving closer again. The key exists, but it can only be found by one who truly understands me. Owen looked around the chamber, searching for anything that might be a key. But as he watched Nixara, he began to realize that the answer wasn't in the room. It was in her. In the way she moved, the way she spoke, the way she looked at him with such desperate hope. "You're not just testing my worthiness," he said slowly. "You're testing whether I'll see you as more than just a beautiful alien. Whether I'll see the person underneath." Nixara's breath caught. "And what do you see?" "I see someone who's been alone for a long time. Someone who's afraid that even if the prophecy is true, I might not choose her." Owen stepped closer, his hand reaching out to touch her face. "Someone who's as scared as I am, but brave enough to take the chance anyway." The moment his fingers touched her skin, a golden light appeared between them. The key, not a physical object, but a connection, a understanding, a choice to see beyond the surface. "The second trial is complete," Nixara whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Owen could feel the change in the air between them. The attraction had been there from the beginning, but now it was mixed with something deeper, understanding, acceptance, the beginning of something that might actually be love. "The third trial," Nixara said, her voice husky with promise. "The test of passion. Do you want me, Owen Fletcher? Not because of prophecy or destiny, but because your heart calls to mine." Owen's answer came without hesitation. Yes. The word hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility. Nixara moved closer, her hands coming up to rest on his chest. "Then prove it," she whispered. "Show me that you choose me, not because you have to, but because you want to." Owen's hands found her waist, pulling her closer. "I've never wanted anything more in my life." When their lips met, it was like a circuit completing. Energy flowed between them, golden light surrounding them. Both. Owen had never felt anything like it. Not just the physical sensation, but the emotional connection, the sense that he'd found something he didn't even know he was looking for. The kiss deepened, passion building between them like a star being born. Nixara's hands tangled in his hair, and Owen lost himself in the taste and feel of her. This was what he'd been missing his entire life. Not just physical intimacy, but true connection. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. The chamber around them was filled with golden light, and Owen could feel that something fundamental had changed. "The trials are complete," Nixara said, her voice filled with wonder. "You are my mate, Owen Fletcher, my heart's chosen one." Owen looked into her eyes and saw his future there. Not the small, safe life he'd always lived, but something bigger, brighter, more wonderful than he'd ever dared to dream. "What happens now?" he asked. Nixara smiled, and it was like sunrise after a long night. "Now, my love, we begin the real adventure." As alarms began to sound throughout the ship, someone had obviously noticed the energy readings from the chamber. Owen realized that his life had just gotten infinitely more complicated. But as he looked at Nixara, at the promise in her eyes, and the love already growing between them, he knew that complicated was exactly what he wanted. The maintenance alert that had started this whole adventure was completely forgotten. Owen Fletcher had found something much more important to fix, his own heart, and the heart of the magnificent alien woman who had chosen him against all odds. The real question now was whether the rest of the universe was ready for their love story. The alarms weren't just background noise anymore. They were getting louder, more insistent, and Owen could hear the heavy footsteps of security personnel echoing through the corridors. But all of that seemed distant and unimportant compared to the woman in his arms. "They're coming for you," Nixara said, her voice carrying a mixture of concern and defiance. "My people will not allow this union easily." Owen's grip tightened on her waist. "What does that mean?" "The Veltari have ancient laws about mating bonds. Once declared, they cannot be broken, but they can be challenged." Her amber eyes darkened. "With worry. Other warriors may demand the right to compete for my hand. Let them try," Owen said, surprised by the fierce protectiveness in his own voice. Something had awakened in him during those trials, something that made him want to fight for this incredible woman. The chamber door burst open, and a squad of heavily armed security officers poured in, led by Commander Hayes, the ship's security chief. Hayes was a no-nonsense woman who looked like she could arm-wrestle a battleship and win. "Fletcher," Hayes barked. "Step away from the prisoner." Now, Owen didn't move. "She's not just a prisoner. She's my mate." Hayes' eyebrows shot up. "You're—" "What now?" "The bonding has begun," Nixara said, her voice carrying royal authority despite her captive status. "By the ancient laws of my people, this human is now under my protection." "And you're under our custody," Hayes replied. "Fletcher, I don't know what kind of alien mind control nonsense is happening here, but you're coming with me." "It's not mind control," Owen said, stepping protectively in front of Nixara. "It's choice, my choice." Before Hayes could respond, another voice cut through the tension. "Actually, Commander, I think you'll find the situation is more complicated than that." Dr. Kim, the ship's xenobiologist, entered the chamber with a tablet in her hands and a fascinated expression on her face. "The energy readings from this chamber have been off the charts. If what I'm detecting is accurate, we're witnessing something unprecedented." "Doctor?" Hayes asked impatiently. "A genuine psychic bond between species. The neural resonance patterns are unlike anything in our database." Dr. Kim looked at Owen with new interest. "Mr. Fletcher, how do you feel?" Owen considered the question. How did he feel? Stronger, more confident, more alive than he'd ever been. "Like I've been asleep my whole life and just woke up. Fascinating. And you, prisoner?" "I am no longer prisoner," Nixara said, her chin raised proudly. "I am claimed, and I claim in return. The bond is sacred." Dr. Kim's scanner beeped frantically. "Commander, if these readings are accurate, separating them now could cause severe psychological trauma to both parties. We need to study this phenomenon." Hayes looked like she'd rather be dealing with a reactor meltdown. "Fine. But Fletcher, you're confined to quarters until we figure out what's happening. And the prisoner stays locked down." "Her name is Nixara," Owen said firmly. "And if you're going to confine me, I want to be confined with her." "Absolutely." "Not. Then you'll have to drag me out of here." Hayes stepped forward, but Nixara's voice stopped her cold. "Touch him, and you will answer to the Valtari Empire. The bonding laws are absolute. Harm one, and you harm both." For a moment, tension crackled in the air like electricity. Then Captain Torres' voice came over the comm system. "All personnel, stand down. Bring Fletcher and the prisoner to my ready room. Now." The ready room was smaller than Owen had expected, but Captain Torres made up for it with his commanding presence. He was a man who'd seen too much of the galaxy's dark side, and his weathered face showed every battle he'd fought. "Sit, Torres," commanded, gesturing to chairs across from his desk. "Both of you." Owen sat, hyper-aware of Nixara beside him. Even in restraints, she radiated power and grace. Her thigh pressed against his, and he felt that same electric connection from their first touch. "Fletcher," Torres began, "you've been on this ship for 3 years. Decent record, no major incidents. So explain to me how you ended up bonded to our most dangerous prisoner." "I took a wrong turn," Owen said honestly. "The rest just happened." "The rest just happened," Torres repeated flatly. "You accidentally triggered an alien mating ritual." "The bond is not accidental," Nixara interjected. "It is destiny. The ancient prophecies speak of a union between star-born children that will reshape the galaxy." Torres rubbed his temples. "Of course they do. Dr. Kim, what's your assessment?" "The neural bonding is real and appears to be deepening by the hour. Their brainwave patterns are beginning to synchronize." It's as if they're becoming two halves of a single consciousness. Owen felt a flutter of panic. Are we losing our individuality? No, Nyxara said softly, her hand finding his despite the restraints. We become more ourselves, not less. The bond enhances what we already are. And what exactly are the implications of this bond? Torres asked. Dr. Kim consulted her tablet. If the Veltari cultural database is accurate, a bonded pair becomes diplomatically significant. They're considered a single entity under Galactic law with rights and protections that extend to both parties. Meaning? Meaning you can't hold her prisoner without also holding him prisoner. And if they're truly bonded, harming one could kill the other. Torres was quiet for a long moment. The war with the Veltari has been going on for 5 years. Their princess could be valuable for negotiations. I am no mere bargaining chip, Nyxara said, her voice carrying a dangerous edge. I am bonded to this human. His people are now my people. His safety is my primary concern. And her safety is mine, Owen added, surprised by his own conviction. Torres studied them both. The Veltari fleet has been tracking this ship for weeks. They want their princess back. Then give her to them, Owen said immediately. I'll go. With her. Owen, Nyxara whispered, her voice filled with wonder. You would leave your world for me? I'd leave any world for you. The declaration hung in the air between them. Torres and Dr. Kim exchanged glances. There's more, Torres said finally. Our intelligence suggests the Veltari are planning a major offensive. Having their princess as a prisoner has been our only leverage. But if she's bonded to a human, Dr. Kim said thoughtfully, that changes the entire dynamic. A union between species could be the foundation for peace negotiations. Owen felt Nyxara's hand tighten on his. The prophecies speak of this, she said. A joining of star children that ends the age of war and begins the age of harmony. Prophecies are all well and good, Torres said, but I need practical solutions. The Veltari fleet will be here in 18 hours. What do you propose? Let us complete the bonding, Nyxara said. When my people arrive, they will see that I am claimed by honor, not held by force. The insult to my house will be erased. And if they don't accept this bonding, then I will challenge any who question it, Owen said, the words coming from some deep place inside him. I'll fight for the right to be with her. Torres looked skeptical. You're a maintenance worker, Fletcher. These are trained warriors. Then I'll learn to be a warrior too. Nyxara's smile was radiant. My mate speaks with the voice of courage. I will teach him the ways of battle. This is insane, Torres muttered. Dr. Kim, is there any scientific precedent for this kind of interspecies bonding? None in our records. But the energy signatures are consistent with what the Veltari call soul binding. If it's real, it could be the key to ending this war. Torres was quiet for another long moment. Against my better judgment, I'm going to allow this, but you have 18 hours to make this work. If the Veltari fleet arrives and this goes sideways, we're all dead. It will work, Nyxara said with absolute certainty. The bond calls for completion. Our souls demand it. As they were escorted back to a modified containment area, Owen felt the weight of what they were attempting. In 18 hours, he'd have to prove himself worthy, not just to Nyxara, but to an entire warrior culture that saw humans as inferior. Are you afraid? Nyxara asked as they were sealed into a room that was part quarters, part jail cell. Terrified, Owen admitted, but also excited. I've never had anything worth fighting for before. You have me now, she said, moving closer. And I have you. The space between them seemed to crackle with energy. Owen could feel the bond growing stronger, pulling them together like gravity. When Nyxara reached for him, He met her halfway. "Show me," she whispered against his lips. "Show me that you choose this. Choose me. Choose us." Owen's answer was to kiss her with all the passion and certainty he'd never felt before. This was his choice, his future, his destiny. And he was ready to fight the entire galaxy for it. The bonding had begun, but the real test was yet to come. In 18 hours, they'd face the Veltari fleet together, and Owen would have to prove that love could indeed conquer all. But first, they had tonight. Tonight to learn each other, to strengthen their bond, to become the united force that could change the fate of two worlds. As the ship's lights dimmed to simulate night cycle, Owen held Nyxara close and felt the future reshaping itself around them. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The maintenance worker and the alien princess, bound by destiny and strengthened by love, ready to rewrite the rules of war itself. The 18 hours passed like a dream wrapped in lightning. Owen had never experienced anything like the night he spent with Nyxara, learning not just the contours of her magnificent body, but the depths of her warrior soul. Every touch, every kiss, every whispered word in her musical language strengthened the bond between them until he could feel her heartbeat as clearly as his own. When the alarm sounded, signaling the arrival of the Veltari fleet, Owen felt ready for anything. The shy maintenance worker who had stumbled into the wrong cell was gone, replaced by someone who had found his purpose in the arms of an alien princess. "They come," Nyxara said, her voice carrying both excitement and concern. She had spent the night teaching Owen basic combat techniques, but more importantly, she had shared the customs and protocols of her people. "My brother Calfax leads the fleet. He is proud, fierce, and protective of family honor. Will he accept our bonding?" Owen asked, checking the ceremonial armor Nyxara had somehow produced from her belongings. It fit him perfectly, as if it had been made for him. "If we prove it is genuine, yes. If he suspects deception or coercion, he will challenge you to single combat." Her eyes met his, filled with love and worry. "Calfax has never been defeated in battle." Owen's stomach did a small flip, but his resolve remained steady. "Then I guess I better not lose." Captain Torres entered their chamber, his face grim. "The Veltari fleet is maintaining position just outside our weapons range. They're demanding the return of their princess and the head of whoever dared to defile her." "No one has defiled me," Nyxara said coldly. "I have chosen my mate according to the ancient laws. My brother will understand this. For all our sakes, I hope you're right. You're being transported to the main hangar bay. The Veltari are sending a diplomatic shuttle." As they walked through the corridors, Owen noticed how the crew looked at him. There was surprise, respect, and more than a little fear in their eyes. Word had spread quickly about the maintenance worker who had bonded with an alien princess and was now preparing to face an entire warrior culture. "Owen," Dr. Kim called out as they passed the medical bay, "the neural bond readings are off the charts. Whatever you two did last night, it's made you stronger. Both of you." Owen felt it too. There was a new power flowing through him, a confidence that came from being complete for the first time in his life. Nyxara squeezed his hand, and he could feel her strength joining with his. The hangar bay was massive, easily large enough to hold the sleek Veltari shuttle that glided through the atmospheric barrier like a knife through silk. The ship was beautiful, all flowing curves and gleaming metal, clearly built by a people who valued both function and artistry. The shuttle's ramp lowered with a soft hiss, and Owen got his first look at the Veltari Royal Guard. They were magnificent and terrifying in equal measure, tall and powerful like Nyxara, but carrying themselves with the deadly grace of professional killers. Their armor was a work of art, each piece unique and clearly crafted by mastersmiths. At their head walked a male who could only be Prince Calfax. He was even taller than Nyxara, with broader shoulders and scars, that spoke of countless battles. His eyes were the same golden amber as his sister's, but colder, more calculating. When he saw Nyxara, his expression softened slightly. "Sister," he said in accented English, his voice carrying across the hangar. "You live. The report suggested you had been harmed." "I am unharmed, brother," Nyxara replied, stepping forward with Owen at her side. "But I am changed. I have found my mate." Kelfax's eyes fixed on Owen, and the temperature in the hangar seemed to drop several degrees. This small human? This is impossible. The prophecies speak of a warrior of great power. The prophecies speak of hidden strength, Nyxara corrected, and power that comes not from size, but from heart. Owen Fletcher has proven himself in the trials. He has claimed me, and I have claimed him. "You were taken prisoner," Kelfax said, his voice hardening. "Coercion is not claiming." "Show him," Nyxara whispered to Owen. "Show him our bond." Owen stepped forward, his heart pounding, but his voice steady. "Prince Kelfax, I know how this looks. A human nobody somehow winning your sister's heart. But what we have is real." He reached out and took Nyxara's hand. Immediately, golden light began to emanate from their joined hands, growing brighter and more intense. The energy field expanded around them, and Owen felt their consciousness merge partially, showing their bond to everyone present. Hiveltari guards gasped, and even Kelfax's eyes widened. "The soul light," he breathed. "It is true bonding." "It is more than bonding," said an ancient voice from the shuttle. An elderly Veltari female emerged, leaning heavily on a crystal staff. Her skin was paler than the others, marked with age, but her eyes held the wisdom of centuries. "It is the fulfillment of the great prophecy." "Elder Silandra," Kelfax said, bowing deeply, "you honor us with your presence." "I felt the resonance across the void," the elder said, her gaze fixed on Owen and Nyxara. "Two souls becoming one, as foretold in the oldest texts. The union that will end the age of war and begin the age of harmony." "But he is human," one of the guards protested. "Weak, short-lived, inferior." Owen felt anger flare in his chest, but before he could respond, Nyxara's voice cut through the hangar like a blade. "Speak that way of my mate again, and you will. Answer to me." "And to me," Kelfax said, surprising everyone. "If my sister has chosen, and the soul light shines, then he is family. To insult him is to insult our bloodline." The elder approached Owen, studying him with eyes that seemed to see through to his soul. "You are not what you appear to be, young human. There is ancient power in your bloodline, dormant but awakening. The bond has triggered something that has slept for generations." "What do you mean?" Owen asked. "Your people have forgotten much of their history, but the universe remembers. Humans were not always the scattered, divided species you are now. Once, your kind reached across the stars with powers that rivaled the gods themselves." Dr. Kim stepped forward from where she'd been, monitoring the proceedings. "The genetic scans we ran on Owen show anomalies, dormant sequences that activated after the bonding began." "The awakening has begun," Elder Salandra said with satisfaction. "The prophecy unfolds as written. But prophecies are fragile things. They can be broken by doubt, by fear, by the refusal to accept change." Kelfax looked at Owen with new respect. "If you are truly my sister's mate, then you must prove yourself worthy not just to her, but to our people. I challenge you to the trial of worthiness." "Kelfax, no," Nyxara said urgently. "The bonding is complete. No further trials are needed." "The bonding may be complete, but the political implications are vast," her brother replied. "If this union is to bring peace between our peoples, it must be seen as legitimate by all. The trial will prove his worth to any who doubt." Owen felt the weight of history pressing down on him. The fate of two civilizations potentially rested on his shoulders. But as he looked at Nyxara, at the love and faith shining in her eyes, he knew what he had to do. "I accept," he said firmly. "What is the trial?" Kelfax smiled, and it was not entirely pleasant. "Single combat. You and I, until one yields or falls." "Brother," Nyxara warned, "if you harm him, you will face me next. And if he is truly worthy, he will not be harmed," Kelfax replied. "The trial tests not just strength, but wisdom, courage, and the ability to protect what matters most." The hangar was quickly cleared of unnecessary personnel, leaving only the essential witnesses. Captain Torres looked like he wanted to intervene, but Dr. Kim held him back. "Let them do this," she said quietly. "The readings I'm getting suggest Owen is capable of far more than any of us realized." Kelfax removed his ceremonial armor, revealing a physique that was clearly the product of a lifetime of warfare. He was armed with a traditional Veltari blade, curved and gleaming. Owen had been given a similar weapon, though he'd never used anything more dangerous than a plasma cutter. "Begin," Elder Salandra commanded. Kelfax moved like liquid lightning, his blade cutting through the air where Owen's head had been a split second before. Owen rolled aside, his body moving with reflexes he didn't know he possessed. The bond with Nyxara was feeding him her combat knowledge, her instincts, her warrior's awareness. But it was more than that. As the fight continued, Owen felt something, awakening deep inside him. Power that had been sleeping in his genetic code for generations, triggered by the bond and the life-or-death situation. His movements became faster, more fluid, more precise. Kelfax pressed his attack, but Owen was no longer just defending. He was fighting back, his blade meeting the prince's in a shower of sparks. The crowd of witnesses watched in amazement, as the human maintenance worker held his own against one of the greatest warriors of the Veltari Empire. "Impossible," one of the guards breathed. "He moves like one born to the blade." "Not born," Elder Salandra corrected. "Reborn. The awakening accelerates under stress. He is becoming what his ancestors once were." The fight reached its climax, when Kelfax managed to disarm Owen, sending his blade skittering across the hangar floor. But instead of yielding, Owen did something unexpected. He smiled. "I don't need a weapon to protect what I love," he said, and suddenly he was glowing with the same golden light that had marked his bonding with Nyxara. The energy surrounded him like armor, and when Kelfax struck, his blade simply passed through Owen without harm. "Energy projection," Dr. Kim gasped. "He's manipulating matter at the quantum level." Owen reached out with his mind, and Kelfax's blade flew from his hand to hover in the air between them. "I yield," the prince said, his voice filled with wonder and respect. "You have proven yourself worthy, brother." The golden light faded, and Owen swayed on his feet. Nyxara was at his side instantly, supporting him. "You did it," she whispered. "You beautiful, impossible man, you actually did it." "The trial is complete," Elder Salandra announced. "The bonding is witnessed and approved. Let all know that Prince Kelfax recognizes Owen Fletcher as true mate to Princess Nyxara, and brother to the royal house of Veltari." Captain Torres stepped forward. "What does this mean for our peoples?" "It means the war is over," Kelfax said simply. "My sister's mate has proven that humans possess the same potential for greatness that we do. We will no longer see her species as inferior. More than that," Elder Salandra added, "this union marks the beginning of a new age. The prophecies speak of the bonded pair becoming ambassadors between worlds, teachers of the new harmony." Owen looked around at the assembled witnesses, at the Veltari, who now looked at him with respect, at the human crew, who saw him as a hero. But most importantly, he looked at Nyxara, at the love and pride shining in her eyes. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now," Nyxara said, her voice filled with joy and possibility. "We build a future together. You and I, our peoples united, exploring the stars as partners instead of enemies." "The awakening has only just begun," Elder Salandra added. "As your bond deepens, so too will your powers. You will need teachers, guides, friends from both worlds." Owen felt the truth of it in his bones. This was just the beginning. The scared maintenance worker who had taken a wrong turn was gone forever, replaced by someone who had found his destiny in the arms of an alien princess and the courage to fight for love across the stars. As the two fleets prepared to return to their respective homes, now as allies instead of enemies, Owen held Nixara close and marveled at how much his life had changed. Yesterday, he'd been nobody special. Today, he was a bridge between worlds, a symbol of hope, a living proof that love could indeed conquer all. "Are you ready for this?" Nixara asked as they prepared to board the Veltari shuttle that would take them to her home world. Owen looked back at the human ship that had been his home for 3 years, then at the alien vessel that would carry him to adventures beyond imagination. "With you, I'm ready for anything." As they lifted off together, bound by love and destiny, Owen Fletcher realized that sometimes the best things in life really did come from taking a wrong turn. He'd gone looking for a broken air recycler and found the love of his life instead. The maintenance worker and the alien princess, now united as one, ready to explore the infinite possibilities of a universe where love had no boundaries. The prophecy was fulfilled. The age of harmony had begun, and it all started with a simple maintenance call and a man brave enough to choose love over fear. Their story was just beginning, but already the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself was celebrating their union and the peace it had brought to two worlds. Owen Fletcher had found his purpose at last, and it was more beautiful than he had ever dared to dream.